Have you ever walked away from someone's embrace, feeling more alone than before? Not because the moment was empty, but because you weren't truly there. Your body might have touched hers, but your soul, that stayed hidden, guarded, hollow. What no one tells you is that for many men, intimacy is not an act. It's a silent cry, a search, a surrender without words. The desire may look like hunger for the body, but beneath that, it's something far more ancient. What a man truly wants is to be chosen, not admired, not desired, but recognized, seen through the layers he's spent his life building, through the masks of control, strength, and charm. Deep down, he hopes she sees him, not the performance, but what's behind it. And that is terrifying, because most men were never taught how to show their insides without shame. They learned to love by proving themselves, by doing, by impressing, not by being. And so, when he stands naked in front of her, physically or emotionally, he's not just offering skin. He's offering his wounds, his rejections, his mother's absence, his father's silence, his unspoken ache for approval. And yet, all of it is hidden behind what looks like lust. But this isn't about sex. Not really. It's about that aching boy inside every man. The one who learned early that to be lovable, he must earn it, perform for it, bend for it. So now, as an adult, he doesn't just want connection. He needs it, desperately. Because each time he's touched, he's hoping that this time it will make him whole. But it never does. Because when you enter intimacy from a place of hunger, you don't connect. You consume. You try to fill the hole inside someone else by letting them into yours. And if they're just as unconscious, the result isn't healing. It's chaos. Energy isn't exchanged. It's leaked, like a cracked jar. What should have nourished you leaves you more depleted. That's why so many men feel exhausted after sex. It's not just physical, it's spiritual drainage. When you offer yourself while disconnected from your own soul, you're not sharing love. You're giving away your essence for crumbs. And that, my brother, is why so many of us feel empty, even when the night was perfect. Because we weren't truly present. We were searching. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But most men don't make love with their hearts open. They make love with ghosts in the room. Past pain, inherited patterns, unspoken wounds. And when those wounds remain hidden, they keep playing out, over and over. Different faces, same emptiness. Because until you recognize your need to be chosen, it will control you. Intimacy will feel like relief, but end in regret. You'll keep offering your soul hoping someone will say, "I see you, I choose you." But that voice has to come from you. Not her, not them, you. There comes a moment in every man's life where a touch does more than excite. It exposes, not her body, his soul. In that pause between kisses, in the silence after the moans, a mirror appears. And in that mirror, he sees himself. Not the curated version, but the real one. The one he spent years trying to escape. No words are spoken, but something stirs. A memory, a feeling, a truth too loud to ignore. This is the moment most men run, because being seen sounds beautiful, until it actually happens. Until you realize she's not just touching your skin, she's grazing your shame, brushing past the facade, and accidentally waking the parts you've buried. Your disappointment, your father's voice, that moment you felt like a failure in silence and never told anyone. That ache for a mother who loved you, but never knew you. That fear that no matter how much you give, it will never be enough. And now she's too close. Not physically, emotionally. You retreat. You shut down. You tell yourself she's too intense, too needy, too much. But the truth is, you weren't ready to meet yourself through her. Because real intimacy isn't erotic. It's existential. It's not about how you perform. It's about how much of you is actually present. And when you're not used to being seen without the armor, every vulnerable moment feels like exposure. Carl Jung believed that intimacy was a portal, not between two bodies, but between the known and the unknown, the conscious and the hidden. He didn't see sex as physical instinct. He saw it as psychic revelation. To him, every embrace was a dialogue with the shadow. So when you touch someone deeply, you're not just touching them. You're stirring the unconscious within you both. That's why some nights feel haunted after they're over. You don't know why, but something feels off. Your body aches, not from exhaustion, but from what was awakened. Because when intimacy is real, performance shatters. You realize, the moaning, the gasping, the rhythm, none of it matters when your soul is still hiding in the corner, watching, waiting. There's a reason why so many men can master techniques but still feel disconnected. It's because the one part of them that craves to be touched is also the one part they keep locked away. And what's worse, they don't even know they're doing it. They think they're being men, strong, controlled, desirable. But what they're actually being is guarded, disconnected from the boy inside who never got to be soft, disconnected from the man he could be if he allowed his soul to speak louder than his shame. In every touch, there is a question. Can I trust you with the real me? And in every withdrawal, there is an answer. Not yet. But here's the truth most men don't hear. Her body is not a prize, it's a mirror. And if you're not ready to face what's reflected back at you, her gaze will feel like judgment. Her softness will feel like pressure. Her affection will feel like a threat. Because it's not her you're afraid of. It's yourself. Until you are willing to meet yourself in the mirror of her eyes, you will keep running. You know the type. The man who does everything right. The one who never raises his voice. Who always shows up. Who pays attention, opens doors, remembers birthdays. Who listens, who stays. And still, he is left behind. Not because he's unworthy, but because he's invisible. You see, the world has a dangerous lie it whispers into the ears of young boys. Be good, and you will be loved. So the boy grows. He studies how to be kind, how to please, how to give and serve and adapt. But no one tells him what it costs to always be what others want. And that cost is himself. He becomes a man who doesn't have needs, only roles, a helper, a protector, a provider. And in the name of being good, he silences the most honest parts of his soul. His rage, repressed. His desires, filtered. His truth, edited for approval. Because deep down, he believes one devastating idea. If I am too much, they'll leave. If I'm not enough, they'll still leave. So I'll just disappear into whatever they need me to be. That's not love. That's self-erasure. And here's the part that hurts the most. No one notices. They see his politeness, his calm, his effort, his smile. But not the quiet ache behind his eyes. Not the fatigue of always carrying others while no one asks if he's okay. Not the weight of always being the safe space, while never having one of his own. He becomes the man who gives everything, and yet feels like nothing. And over time, bitterness grows. Not because he's mean, but because he's tired of being good, in a world that rewards performance, not presence. This is the man who thinks love is earned through sacrifice. He bends, he shrinks, he overextends, he shows her the best parts of himself, even while his own heart bleeds silently. He doesn't ask for much, just someone who chooses him without conditions. But the truth is, he never chose himself, and that's the tragedy. Because until a man stops performing for love, He will always attract those who see him as a function, not a soul. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." And the unconscious wound of many good men is this: I must earn love by disappearing. But that's not love. That's emotional starvation masked as virtue. You don't have to destroy yourself to be loved. You don't have to bleed silently just to be chosen. You are not here to be a mirror for someone else's needs. You are here to be whole. And wholeness does not come from being agreeable. It comes from being authentic. Even if that authenticity scares people. Even if it means being too intense, too wild, too honest. Because the right person won't be afraid of your fullness. They'll be waiting for it. So ask yourself this, brother. Are you being kind? Or are you begging for love through performance? Because one will nourish you, and the other will slowly bury you in a coffin made of approval. Let's tell the truth now. There comes a point when a man stops loving the woman in front of him and starts loving the idea of what she might fix. He looks into her eyes and sees not just beauty or desire, but redemption. He believes her love might finally heal what his past couldn't. That her acceptance might erase the years of not being enough. That she might be the one who finally makes the ache stop. But here's the sacred wound most men carry. They don't want her love. They want her approval. And they confuse the two, again and again. So when she smiles, they feel seen. When she turns away, they feel abandoned. When she praises, they rise. When she criticizes, they collapse. Not because she's cruel, but because he has placed his self-worth in her hands. And here's the trap. When you make someone else the mirror of your value, you will always be chasing reflections that were never yours to begin with. She becomes the mother you never had, the savior of your unmet childhood needs, the balm for every wound you never spoke aloud. And yet, she never signed up for that role. She may want a partner, but now she's carrying your ghosts, your insecurities, your dependency, your hidden shame. And one day, she pulls away. Not because she doesn't love you, but because she can't hold up the fantasy anymore. And you're left shattered, not just by her leaving, but by what her presence represented. She wasn't your lover. She was your healing fantasy. And that fantasy, my brother, was never sustainable. Carl Jung called this the anima projection, the way men unconsciously project their inner feminine, their softness, vulnerability, ache for wholeness, onto a woman. Not because they know her, but because they haven't yet met that part of themselves. And so she becomes everything: the lover, the muse, the mother, the medicine. But that projection is a trap, because the woman is human, flawed, messy, incomplete, just like you. And when she fails to live up to the illusion, the dream collapses. You blame her, or yourself, or both. But the real issue? You were never in a relationship with her. You were in a relationship with your own unmet needs. And this is the pivotal moment, where a man must decide: will I continue to chase women hoping one of them heals me? Or will I finally turn inward and learn how to heal myself? Because the truth is this: no woman can fill the hole you refuse to acknowledge. No matter how beautiful, no matter how kind, no matter how available. If you are disconnected from your own center, every relationship will feel like hunger. You'll keep devouring, keep needing, keep bleeding into their space. Not out of love, but out of survival. But when a man stops expecting healing from her and starts finding it in himself, something sacred happens. He no longer chases, he invites. He no longer needs to impress. He embodies. His presence speaks louder than his performance. His gaze no longer begs, it sees. And in that moment, the woman is no longer a rescuer. She becomes what she was always meant to be, a partner, not a savior, not a fantasy, but an equal. Two whole souls, not completing each other, but witnessing each other's. Let's make this clear. Sex is not entertainment. Not when it's real, not when it's conscious. It's not a conquest, not a notch on the bedpost, not a performance graded by moans or movements. Sex, at its core, is a portal, not just to pleasure, but to power, to truth, to the unseen. But that truth only reveals itself if you're awake. Most men are not. They believe they're just touching a body, chasing release, escape, validation. But what they're actually doing is exchanging energy. You're not just entering her body, you're stepping into her story, her past, her traumas, her patterns, her emotions, her soul. And if you're unaware, you don't just touch her, you absorb her. That's why after some encounters, you feel drained. Not just physically, but spiritually. As if something left you, but nothing came back. Because sex, when unconscious, is not connection. It's contamination. It doesn't matter how hot she is. If she's carrying unresolved pain, emotional addictions, chaos she hasn't faced, that energy moves through you. Her wounds become your weight. Her confusion becomes your fog. And you wonder why, days later, your clarity is gone. Your purpose feels shaky. You're restless, anxious, off. It wasn't just sex. It was a ritual you didn't respect. Carl Jung understood that the psyche doesn't separate body and soul. To him, sexuality wasn't separate from the unconscious. It was the language of it. A place where all the hidden parts scream the loudest, if you're willing to listen. So when you open yourself to a woman physically, you're not just opening your body. You're opening the doorway to your unconscious, and hers. And if neither of you are present, that doorway becomes a revolving door for everything that has been denied. You're not making love. You're making agreements with energies you don't understand. And the cost? Your peace. Because every intimate exchange leaves an imprint. And the more you give yourself unconsciously, the more you scatter your soul across bodies that were never ready to hold it. But there's another way. When you enter intimacy with presence, with depth, with reverence, the energy shifts. It's no longer about what you do, it's about what you reveal. You're not trying to perform, you're trying to merge. Not as an escape, but as a return. To yourself, to your softness, to the part of you that craves sacred contact, not surface thrill. Real sex is not fast. It's timeless. It's not mechanical. It's mystical. When the body becomes an oracle, every touch speaks, every breath listens, every glance holds lifetimes of unspoken ache. And in that sacred silence, something ancient rises. A forgotten part of you. The part that doesn't beg, that doesn't impress, that simply is. So no, sex is not a game. It never was. It's a ritual, one that can rebuild you or break you, depending on your level of awareness. So ask yourself before every touch, every kiss, every intimate act, am I here to perform or to merge? Is this a craving or a calling? Because one will leave you empty, the other will awaken your soul. It happens quietly, not in a dramatic heartbreak, not in a fiery breakup, but in the stillness after the noise, when the man finally sits with himself and realizes no one is coming to save him. Not her, not the next woman, not even love itself. Because what he was seeking all along was never really them. It was himself. The version of him that's been waiting to be chosen, not by a lover, but by his own soul. That's the real awakening. Not when you get the relationship, not when she says she loves you, but when you finally look in the mirror, not to fix, impress, or critique, but to simply see, to witness the man you've become, the boy you abandoned, the shadow you denied, the gifts you buried just to be accepted. And you feel it, the grief, the ache of how long you've tried to earn your worth by giving yourself away, not physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. But that grief, that's not your enemy. It's your portal, because from that place, raw, cracked open, stripped of illusion, you finally have the chance to make the only choice that matters, to choose yourself. This doesn't mean you become selfish. It doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop bargaining your soul for breadcrumbs. It means you stop chasing validation through sex, charm, silence, or being good. It means you look that boy inside you in the eye, the one who was never held, never told, you are enough. And you say it yourself. You matter, even now, even broken, even unchosen. Because the moment you choose you, fully, fiercely with presence, something sacred shifts. You don't need her to pick you. You don't need her body to feel alive. You don't need her approval to feel seen. You become your own mirror. And in that mirror, you no longer see desperation. You see rootedness. You see a man who no longer performs love, but embodies it. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." That's the key. Because when you awaken, sex becomes ceremony. Love becomes choice, not survival. Desire becomes art, not addiction. And your body becomes a temple, not a transaction. You stop offering yourself to women who carry chaos. You stop opening your sacred energy to those who cannot hold it. You stop leaking your essence just to feel wanted. And instead, you wait. You discern. You listen. Because you felt the cost of being unconscious. And now, you've remembered your value. Not every woman deserves access to your body, much less your energy. You are not a fixer. You are not a performance. You are not a placeholder for someone else's healing. You are a force, a mirror, a man rooted in soul. And from that place, you don't chase, you don't convince, you call forth. Only those who can meet you in wholeness. Only those who see you not as a savior, but as a soul. So now the real question emerges. Will you keep offering yourself to those who only want pieces of you? Or will you finally become the man who refuses to shrink, bend, or disappear, just to be seen? Because now you know the truth. Sex is not a game. Love is not a rescue mission. And your worth is not up for debate. Your soul has been waiting.